Okay, let's start with the basics. When you buy the Aquatronica Touch, one of the things you definitely want to go out and buy is at least one SD card. I got an 8 GB one. Those are cheap. USB key. You probably have a half a dozen of these lying around the house. I just had this one. And if you're interested in connecting it by Wi-Fi, you need to get a Wi-Fi dongle. Now, I went out and bought this Next brand version, and it doesn't work with the Aquatronica Touch. If you go on their website, they will list the models that work. I didn't pay much attention. My system is currently connected with the Ethernet cable, which I prefer. I only got this because I wanted to use it on a demo with this unit. But if you're seriously going to connect via Wi-Fi, which I know a lot of people want to do, I prefer Ethernet just from a reliability standpoint. But you can certainly just look on their website and you will see it, or in the manual they tell you which ones will work. So, getting into it now. First, to hook it up, you have your two access points. One is here, which you can use your finger, push down, open, and inside here, as you can see, you have two optional 1 and 2 ports here. This is the bus line, the USB bus line that connects to the power bar, the 12 volt, and the Ethernet cable. And there's a battery under here, which I don't know if you can see, but there's a battery right there. And that battery is basically the backup battery, which you can change at any point if you need to. The other compartment is over here, and you have to push this clip over all the way with your finger, and then use your thumb and push up. This is a USB port here for the USB key that you may want to use. And underneath, you have the SD card slot here. I hope you can see that. And another USB port. And this USB port, I think, is for basically, you have to look at this controller differently from most of the others. This is running Linux OS, basically, and it's almost like an Android type platform. So you have the programming itself, and then you have the operating system. I think this allows you to get even lower down into like the kernel level, where you can upgrade the system in case there is any kind of fault, or they come out with a newer version that changes some of the programming inside the chipsets itself. Okay, so that's basically it. Now, for connection to the unit, you first need to get a power bar. For the first basic connection, we're going to start off by needing a power bar and one USB cable, and plug one of these plug adapters, or the one that comes with it. So let me get those and hook that up. Okay, so here are all the parts. So let's get going here. And the first thing you need to do is go into the back of the controller here, hook up your 12 volt. By the way, this is not plugged in yet, the adapter. Hook up your 12 volt cable. I find it works better routing it to this side. Next, hook up one of your USB cable. Alright, and that goes to that side. And for right now, we're not going to hook up an Ethernet cable. We're just starting off with the very basics here. And you can put the cover back on. Over here, if you were going to use a Wi-Fi dongle, even though this one doesn't work, I'm going to plug it in just to show you that, that's how it would plug in. And your Wi-Fi is now set. And you just slide back on this connector, clicks into place, and you're good to go there. Now on the power bar, I would pick probably one of the positions that you want to, but I always prefer going in the end corner there, and you would plug in your USB cable. So now that's connected, so that's connected there, and everything is right. So the first thing I'm going to do is plug in is the adapter that goes to the controller. And right away you see the little Linux symbol come up there, and it's going to go through a boot process, and it's basically loading up the OS and then loading on the Aquatronica program onto it. And this does take about 30 seconds or so. And now we're up. Okay, and you get last blackout duration 0, 0, blah blah blah. It's blank, and this is fresh out of the box, right? So just everything touch screen. Now let me start off by going through the basic layout of the screen and some of the buttons, because if you are using an older Aquatronica system, this is very different, and it could be very frustrating for you. If you're new, going into it brand new, it's gonna just be like learning anything else. You have no preconceived notions of how it operates, so you will just learn as you go along. If you're an older Aquatronica user, you're gonna start trying to do things the way the older controller did it, which is kind of like a kind of tree formation, where you go to one setting, and that setting leads you into another setting, and everything is nested, going branch by branch. This is a little different in the way it operates, in that you can basically go from one area to another area without having to be necessarily caught in going through stage by stage. So that's a little bit of the differences in how they program. Let me get the camera adjusted in closer to this screen so that you can see this better. Okay, also, in case I'd forgotten, you also have this stand which comes with it for mounting it, and basically it has a latch under here, and it clips up here. The clip goes in here, the latch goes on the bottom here. You line up the hole at the bottom. Once that's in, you press down, and it's latched in, and this can pull out, and you have a screw hole here section, which I highly recommend that you screw it down. If not, the thing is going to be kind of tapping around, which I'm probably going to have issues with as I go along here. But it also has a screw at the front edge here, so you can mount this to wherever is convenient for you, and certainly it'll make life a lot easier than having it being able to slide around like this. Okay, so I've got it set up here, and first let me apologize for that kind of strobing effect you're seeing. I can't see that with my eyes, but I can tell that the camera is picking it up. And you know that happens when you try to film a picture of a LCD or screen that's refreshing. You get this strobing line effect, but that's not in the actual screen when you look at it with your own eyes. So let's start off with where we are in this controller. First of all, down here you have your pages, and different pages 1, 2, 3, and that basically is scrolling you across. Over here you have your menu. That's self-explanatory. Up here where it says Aquatronica is actually the home button. So first off, let's just go into menu, and we need to start by first setting our time and stuff. Tap it, and as you can see, it says the system name. You can change it to from Aquatronica controller to whatever name you want to put in for it. Dave's controller, Dave's fish tank. You go to the date, and you want to set the date here. Okay, so let's type in a date. Now, when something is highlighted, it's actually in black. So the one you're operating on is in black. So it says 010100, day, month, year, year. So let's put in 070615, and that's the date. And then we'll go over here to the time, and the time is 05, which I think is going to be in military time. So it would be 17:16, and press OK. So that's the time and the date up here are set, 17:16. Okay, and the language is in English, obviously, unless whatever country you're in. It has a load of language packs that you can get electronically in the updates typically. And under display, you can adjust the brightness, and you can change the background to gray or aqua. I'm sure they're going to come out with more. Power savings and scroll time. Now these are important. Scroll time, as you put more and more, well, what they do now is they call them widgets. As you put more widgets, which show the status of each device, each probe, each power unit, as you put more of them on the screen, it obviously takes up more than one screen. So in order to do that, they have to scroll one screen to the next, so that if you're just looking at it casually, you can just see each one as it passes by. You can also manually just tap down here and change to the next screen to the next screen. So if you set this to 0 seconds, it's just manually, it's no longer scrolling. Power savings off, power savings on. I think that blanks out the display after a time period. If you touch it, it comes back on. If you don't, it's off. I have to look that up further, but I'm pretty sure that's what that is. I'm not going to touch into the password or the SMS or the or the rest of the settings. I've been into general already, but I will say under the password, if you have young kids at home, you definitely want to enable the password. My son almost wrecked my tank by going in and trying to change things, or he was just playing with it. And if you turn on the password, you can't change any of the settings without first putting in the password. So that's just something to think about. But that's just generally now. We've done the first thing, and let's press menu, and we come to the widgets here on the screen. And as you can see down here, it says 1, which is the first page. And if I press this, I go to the second page. And if I press this, I go to the third page. And going back, as you can see on page 1, you have your home, overview, settings, home setup, agenda, sequence, programs, power units. Now, key thing here is programs, which is where you're going to set up all your programs. Your home setup will allow you to set up how the screen looks, and your power units allow you to name the power units and decide what they're going to do. These are for all different probes that you may have connected. So if you don't have a probe connected, it'll probably be light grayed out. It'll be dark if a probe is connected of the right kind. Next, you have the dosing pump, your light, LED lights. I'm pretty sure this is for LED lights, or possibly T5 lights, lighting systems that are variable. And the Ethernet setup over here, which people are going to want to know how they connect to the internet and so forth. So that basically covers the basic menus that are in here. And once you go back and you press Aquatronica, you're back to the home, you see nothing here because I haven't set any widgets yet. So let's start off by setting up our first device, which would be the power bar. So let's start with that. Okay, so I'm going to plug in the power bar now, and hear the click, and it detects the new device, and there are the 8 plugs, and the PU is power unit, and it basically is showing you the status of each plug, that they're off, and if you can, I don't know if you can see that clearly, but like the one there has an A, next one B, C, D, E, F, giving you all the plugs, which correspond, if you look on the power bar, each one is labeled A through H. So we press OK, and on our home screen now we have all 8 of our power bar plugs. And next thing we need to do is plug something into one of them and just make a quick check, on and off, see if it works, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a simple desk lamp, like this one, and I'm just going to plug it in to the power bar plug A, and it's in. And by the way, I got that bit mixed up. The manual, auto manual, the manual turns everything on. So all lights are on. And if you look on the screen for the Aquatronica, if I turn on or go to manual, all plugs are on. So it's just a bypass if you want to get all the plugs on. Not something I've ever had to use in the past, but that's just to let you know. So I'm going to position this lamp right behind the controller so you can kind of see when the light comes on and off. And now I'm going to go in and just show you how to program a power bar, how to program the power bar for any kind of function you might need to do. So let's start. Now this is now in the home screen, and as you can see, it's been populated with these widgets. And if I scroll over one, there's nothing, because these are all I have, 8 power bars, 8 plugs, sorry. And so the next thing I need to do is start to define it. And you want to be very careful when you do this at the start of laying out what you want to plug into which of the plugs. You want to write that down, that you know your T5 light number 1 is plugged into plug A, your T5 light system number 2, or your halide system or LEDs or whatever is plugged into B, C is your pump, D. You want to have that all noted down on paper because it'll be a lot easier when you start programming. So first thing I'm going to do is tap menu, and I'm going to go to power units over here, and this is where the touch is a little different from the old Aquatronica, in that you first have to select what you want to do and then the device you want to do it with. So right now it's highlighted here in manual command, and if I pick power unit A up here, I can just tell it on. And if I hit OK, that unit is on, and you can see the light over here is on. If I go in, tap it again, tell it off, press OK, it's off. And there are priorities in the Aquatronica programming as to what has the greater priority over whatever else. I will give you a list of that later down in the video of the priorities, but manual commands are pretty high up there. I think the only thing that can override a manual command of on or off is a leak sensor, which can then turn something that may be on off. But each thing does have a priority, which is great because you need to have that structure so that when you make programs, certain things can override if something goes wrong. If water starts spilling, you want your leak detector to be able to turn off your pump, okay? And that's definitely something you need to do. So let's start off with, we'll go back in this manual command, power bar 1, and we'll make sure it's turned to auto. And auto just simply means that, and I'm going to press OK. Auto means that it can be controlled by anything. It can be controlled by a temperature, it can be controlled by a level sensor. Anything can turn it on or turn it off. And that's the normal state that most plugs are left in. Except in the rare instance where, I don't know, you might want to have something just left on all the time, or when you want to use manual command often is to kill something. If you come home and you see something and you want to turn it off, you just quickly tap off, OK, and that pump or something might go off while you clean your skimmer. So that's basically the commands there. So we're going to go back into manual, pick auto, OK, and we're there. Now let's do a program timer. Pick program timer, and here it's a little different once again. I'm going to select, it's on A, as you can see, and I'm going to pick top row here, and I'm going to say plus to add something. Now I'm going to give it a time from, so I hit this from here and I got into this new menu. It's now 1736, so let's say from 1738 to 1740. Oops, sorry. If you make a mistake like that, you have back arrow 40, and we want this thing to come on for 0, 0, 1 minute, and we want it to go off for 1 minute, and we press OK. And here are the dates that it'll do it on: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. If you don't want it to do it on certain days of the week, then you can just black them out and it'll only do it on those particular days. Since today's Sunday, we're fine here. I press OK, and that program is up, and I'm going to come out, go here, because it's 1370. Its time is now 5:38, so I expect this is going to start operating, and there we go. Pump on or light on, and it should stay on for 1 minute. And I'm going to probably cut out some of this time when I edit it out of this video. I don't want to bore you to death here for a minute watching a light, but it's got about 30 seconds left to go. And you can see, by the way, on the widget here is a clock showing you that this plug is on a timer. So depending on how you program it, you might get different little icons on each widget to tell you what kind of programming that particular plug is set to. And this should soon switch off. And there we go. Turned off. And in another minute's time, it'll come back on again. So that's just showing you a timer. Now, a more practical application of that would be to turn on the lights for your tank. You would set it to turn on at 8 o'clock in the morning, turn off at 8 o'clock at night. And the difference in the programming there would be that, sorry, in the wrong thing here, go to power unit. The difference in the program timer for here, and now to edit this, as you notice, it says, it tells you the different times, the time on for 1 minute, off for 1 minute. This is going to come back on shortly. I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to go to this pencil down here for edit. And if you change the 1 minute here to 00, and you change the off to 000, and you save it, okay, and I press OK, the light will probably come on once I get back out. Well, actually, I've passed 1740 hours, so the light is not going to come back on. But if I went back in and I changed it again, edit it, and I changed this to 1743, pressed OK, and then OK, and I turned on for all days. All right, you see the light came on, and that light will stay on until we hit 5:43 in the afternoon, and then it'll turn off, and that will be basically how you would normally set a light. So the other functions when you're in here of having this on and off is just to set a wavering period, that if you want. And I use this a lot also when I have my tank set up, that the lights will stay on. One set of T5 lights will stay on for X amount of hours, and then it'll go off for like 2 hours, and then it'll come back on, and then another bank will come on when those come off, and so forth. Wave effects, tide effects, and so forth, I'm not going to get into that for this video. The only other thing I would get into next is probably going here, and I am going to show you that you can just press this here, sorry, and delete it, and that program is gone, right? It is deleted out. Blackout. Now if I pick power button A for blackout, this is one of the great features that Aquatronica came up with very early on. You want to know in your aquarium what you want to do if the power should go out, because you might not want your skimmer to start powering up before your pump has had time to start circulating the water, or you might want to have some other action happen first before some other action happens. There's so many variables depending on how your aquarium is configured, and basically what this allows you to do is to set up what plug 1, or any particular plug, in this case plug 1, will do in case there's a power outage. So to start off with, I'm going to go back in and I'm going to make back a program to turn on that light. Okay, so I've set back a new timer, and you can see the light is on over here, and it's set to go off at 6 p.m. And what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to go in, the timer is here, and you can see that program there, or the timer setting for that plug. And I'm going to go into blackout. And by the way, these are not really they're programs, but they're not programs dependent on any sensor or anything like this. This is more how you would deal with just the daily routine of how a pump or a light or something functions, not how it's going to react to something going wrong or whatever. This is setting up your daily routine and your fallbacks in case something goes wrong. So I'm going to go into blackout, which is our major fallback here, and I'm going to tell it, okay, I'm going to pick pump A, and I'm going to say, you have up here action duration. I hope you can see that clearly. Blackout duration, plug status, enabled, right? Okay, action duration basically says that if there's a blackout or a power outage, that for X amount of time, I want this plug to do this. And what you want it to do is whatever you tell the plug status to be. The blackout duration is to say that, well, if the blackout lasted 1 minute, then do this. If the blackout lasted less than a minute, then don't bother doing it. All right? Typically, or if the blackout lasted 30 minutes, then I want something else to totally different happen. So just for a simple test here, I'm going to put in blackout duration can be the action, I want to have happen will last for 1 minute. And the blackout duration is as quick as possible. In other words, if it blacks out at all, I want this plug to go off. I don't want it to come on. And then I'm going to enable this program, and I'm going to press OK. And so now that's set, right? Now if I unplug this unit, plug the controller out, and this would simulate a blackout, plug it back in, and we're going to have boot up here. Okay, it's still booting up, and you'll notice the light is still on. As I said, independent of the controller itself, the power bar will do whatever it's programmed to do. Okay, now you saw that the light went out. That's because basically the Aquatronica OS has now taken over. And what's happened is that blackout that I just set for 1 minute has now taken effect. Of course, when you have a normal power outage, the power bar would also lose power, so the light would have been off anyway. It's just the fact that I separately unplugged the controller just alone in this case. So after 1 minute, what will happen here is you'll see the blackout duration, which was 2 minutes. Press OK, and you'll notice there's an X here, and that X is telling you that this device is turned off by the blackout function. It's the icon to mean that a blackout has occurred and it's forcefully turned off. And as soon as the 1 minute expires, so this could be your protein skimmer would be off when the power comes back on for 1 minute to give your pump some time to remove water or whatever out of the sump. And we should be approaching the point shortly where the 1 minute is up, and the light should resume back its normal activity. And there we go. The light is back on and it's on timer. So that basically demonstrates the blackout function. There are a lot more things in here under the power units that you can fool around with. As I said, some are functions, whatever, tidal effects, wave effects. But the last one I'm going to touch on is changing the name. Because right now we have it set up as Power Unit 1. So I select Change Name, I press, oops, and I'm going to just delete what was there to PU, and I'm going to call this Light. And I'm going to change the alphabet to numbers, Light 1. Or you know, you could just make it a little more fancy. You have so much space here. Light T5, and you could go in here, and oops, sorry, space 1. Okay. So that's your T5 light number 1, and you can see that right here, the name shows up. So that's just putting in the name of each plug, and you really want to set each plug's name up first. So the next one over, I could change name here, pick second plug, and I could call this pump, lowercase, pump, or delete main. Pump. And that's now my main pump, and so forth and so forth. You can, as a matter of fact, one of the first things you want to do is just go through and name each one, so that there's never a confusion. So stage 1, after you get your power bar up, is probably change all the names to whatever makes sense for what you're going to use them for, and write down each one what it is on a piece of paper, and you're good to go there. Your lights are typically going to be controlled by timers. Other things will be controlled. Your pump will be, if you're going to use a main pump, by the way, you don't want to use it by a manual command and just say on or off, because then the only way it'll go off is if there's a leak. Your main pump, typically, you would go in and you'd want to put a timer. Oops. All right, the light went off because the time has expired. Okay, now what I was saying is, with the main pump for your unit, you do not want to turn it on manually. That's just a bad idea. You don't want to just tell it to stay on all the time, because almost nothing else can turn it off. On and off as a manual command has one of the top priorities. Only a leak, as I said earlier, will a water sensor going off will be able to shut off that pump. You would definitely want your pump to shut off if the level in your tank gets too high or something like that. So one of the ways you want to do this is to make sure that the pump is set with a timer. So I've selected timer over here, and I'm going to go to the main pump, which I set as my second plug, and I'm going to add a program here, and I'm just going to leave it from 00 to 00, and the on off 00 all the days Monday to that. And you'll see here it says 24-hour, which is just telling you that it's always on, basically, via the timer. And just press OK. And now if I come back out, you'll see that the main pump is listed as on. And if I plug the light into that, I'm plugging it into the second plug here, you'll see that it's on. So your pump is now running all the time, 24 hours a day, but it's still able to be overridden by a program that you may want to have the ability to override it. As I said, for instance, your overflow could get blocked, your tank level is rising, your level switch goes off, and you want it to shut down the pump instantly. Okay, well, that's because it's on a timer now, you can do that. So I just wanted to show you that. And that now brings up another interesting aspect. I mean, we've gone through just plugs here basically. And there's so many other things, and most of them I can't test them using regular methods. So I thought about this long and hard of how to run some tests for you and demonstrate some things without hooking it up to my tank. Because if I hook it up to my tank, you're not going to be able to see 90% of the stuff that's happening. And things happen so slowly that we die of old age waiting on the next time when the RO system is going to top up the tank. That could be an hour from now. I want a controlled environment, and I remembered when I got my first controller that I had actually set up a mini system whereby I could test it and see how it operates in a controlled environment. Basically, just using some beaker flasks, and it's going to look kind of odd. It's going to look strange, but it'll allow you to see as you set up programs what they're doing and how they're working. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set that up, but first I'm going to plug in some more probes, and we're just going to name them, and I'm going to show you a few more programming things, and then we're going to move on to putting it in a small mini working environment so you can see how everything interacts together.